The story of the discovery of America is not a single event, but a powerful collision of worlds, driven by ambition, curiosity, and consequences that still echo today. In 1492, an ambitious Italian navigator named Christopher Columbus sailed west under the Spanish crown, chasing a bold dream of reaching Asia by crossing the Atlantic Ocean. Europe at the time was desperate for new trade routes, especially for spices and gold, and Columbus promised a faster path. After weeks of fear, uncertainty, and near rebellion among his crew, land was finally sighted. Not in Asia, but in the Caribbean. It was a moment that would unknowingly open the door to an entirely new world. However, one of the biggest misconceptions in history begins here. Columbus did not discover America. Long before his arrival, millions of indigenous people, often later called Red Indians, a term that is now considered outdated and replaced by Native Americans or indigenous peoples, had already been living across these lands for thousands of years. These were not primitive societies, but complex civilizations with deep knowledge, culture, and systems. Tribes like the Taino, whom Columbus first encountered, lived peacefully with nature, practicing agriculture, fishing, and trade. In North America, vast networks of tribes existed, each with their own languages, beliefs, and governance. The name Indians itself came from Columbus's mistake. He believed he had reached India, and the name remained, shaping centuries of identity and misunderstanding. Even before Columbus, another hidden chapter existed. Around the year 1000, Leif Erikson, a Viking explorer, had already reached North America and briefly settled in what is now Newfoundland. Yet his journey faded into mystery, largely forgotten by mainstream history, because it did not lead to widespread contact or colonization. Columbus's voyage, on the other hand, triggered a chain reaction that would permanently connect the Old World and the New. What followed was one of the most transformative and devastating periods in human history. The arrival of Europeans began the Columbian Exchange, where crops, animals, and ideas moved between continents. Potatoes, maize, and tomatoes revolutionized Europe, while horses and new technologies changed life in the Americas. But alongside these exchanges came invisible enemies, diseases like smallpox and measles, which indigenous populations had no immunity against. Entire communities were wiped out, leading to one of the greatest population declines ever recorded. Hidden within this story are darker truths often left out of simple narratives. Columbus's own writings reveal not just curiosity, but a clear intent for wealth and domination. The indigenous people he encountered, including those labeled as Red Indians, were quickly subjected to forced labor, exploitation, and violence. What began as exploration soon turned into colonization, setting the stage for centuries of conflict, displacement, and cultural erasure. The term discovery itself becomes controversial. How can a land be discovered when it was already home to millions? There is also a deeper mystery. Columbus died believing he had reached Asia. He never truly understood that he had encountered an entirely new continent. His miscalculation of the Earth's size, once seen as a bold risk, turned out to be a fortunate accident. Without the existence of the Americas, his journey might have ended in failure and tragedy. The discovery of America is not just a story of one man or one voyage. It is the story of two worlds meeting for the first time, with consequences both extraordinary and devastating. It brought progress, connection, and the beginning of globalization, but also loss, suffering, and centuries of struggle for the indigenous people who were already there.